All right, VIP, it's the video we've all been waiting for. I've been asked to do this video quite a bit, and I've avoided it because I don't do many of these. Or rather, I run into them, I repair them, don't very rarely do them from scratch. And what are we talking about? Doing a walkout basement. How would I do a walkout basement? I'm always criticizing people of how they do a walkout basement, but not really offering uh, full solutions for how I approach this. And tell you the truth, done one in so long that I don't know how I would approach it. So we're going to try to just work through that. I will tell you that a recent video led me to build out a wall assembly that I'll be using in this video, and I'll just give it away. It's going to be in, I'm going to have to check the blog section is where I can post links to things very protected by the fact that you're paying for. So, there will be a link, and let's just see, where does that even exist? Show where that exists. If we bring up YouTube, I'm going to put this on the screen here and bring up YouTube. If you're unfamiliar, go to the channel, and then in the channel, under, I believe, community is, here we go, is a section where I've got links here, and some of these are protected for members only. So you've got your own content here. So check that out. It's underneath the community tab. That's where I'm going to post a link to this particular library symbol, which is a furred wall assembly. And we're going to get into that in a minute. I do want to show that I've already built out a terrain. And so that terrain is that I've got a flat level up here to the right, and then it steps down with some kind of a retaining wall that I'll put in at some point, and then a gradual slope downward. Okay. And so our walkout basement's going to be down here, and then our main level is going to be up here. Going to work out the difference in between the two. There we go. That's what we're thinking. So, and I'm just assuming that I already know what the terrain is, and I don't necessarily know what the house is going to be out there. Now, when I do a walkout basement, the first thing I want to do right off the bat, mind you, is I'm going to be doing the living space of the walkout on floor level 1. That's the pinch point that people are always asking me about. Why are we doing it on floor level 1? There's many reasons to do it on floor 1. Yes, you could do this on floor 0, but one of the problems with doing it on floor 0 is you're fighting your structure, your footings, etc. So that if you need to show something like some portion of a concrete block wall with a footing, yet that doesn't make sense in terms of showing your walkout basement's floor plan, now those two are fighting each other. And how do you display those in a way that makes sense? And maybe trying to work with custom layer sets, and ultimately you're just letting the footing live on that floor, even though it might be confusing to a builder. Whereas when we isolate to floor level 1, we can independently show layers as we want to using the reference display. So that's a lot more powerful. Not only that, but we are fully taking advantage of automatic foundations when we isolate like this. So that our floor underneath this floor, this is very clearly our foundation for that floor level 1. And so this makes a lot of sense, right? So that's why I'm going to build on floor level 1 for our walkout basement, which means right off the bat, I just want to build a floor level 2. So let's just do that real quick. Okay, so we got a floor level 2. I'm also going to build out a deck on here just to kind of distinguish what I want. This is just going to be part of my design. So I'm going to use the deck railing tool. That's this guy right here. And just draw this out. And I'm probably going to have a little chunk taken out of this, or a corner rather, where I'm going to end up showing that I've got a staircase going down to the deck below. So I could use the stairs, right click, draw, alternate draw mode, and that draws the stairs going down, and I can form this if I need to, right? And kind of the same thing as, I could take that same railing tool, shift select everything here and copy, and then take it down a level and paste hold position. Just mind you, it's not pasting the room type. So you do still need to come in here and designate this as a deck if you wanted that to show up correctly. And then I'm going to kind of bring that section forward and do another down staircase from here. Maybe this squeezed in, etc. What does this even look like? Well, we've got a second floor. We've got this deck system happening here. And this deck right here, this staircase right here needs to get pulled back, and it's going to do its auto thing. Right click, pull this back. We'll let this kind of drag linearly, but actually, funny thing with steps is that right clicking unbinds it and makes it so that it can be a curved step. So something you could do is left click, drag, and hold S so that it's not picking up any snaps. Have your S key set to some kind of hotkey. That's essentially what you've given up, is that holding S makes it so that it doesn't hit any snaps when we drag it, right? And so this automatic build, for some reason, is not reaching the floor below. So I'm going to have to mess with that a little bit later, but there we go. I've got a deck. It's going to reach that deck level below, and then same thing, this deck's going to reach that deck level below. We could have gone the other way, which is, yes, this deck could have been drawn down, but could have also just turned on our reference display and then drawn a staircase going up from here, right? And up to that deck above. So another way we could have done that. And that deck here may not reach the deck above. I think it would. Get the correct one. That. Then our clearance, we got some clearance issues. All right, that's fine. Working through. So my next step is I've got this particular wall assembly that I want to use. That's what it is it's a pony wall assembly. The pony wall is my main stem wall type. And then from there, I have a, on top of that, I have my main siding wall type. And then on the inside of that is a furring wall. And so this is going to come out in my next Pro Plan update. It's going to be added to the toolbars. A couple things will be added to the toolbars over here in the walls assembly. One is that I find it to be really unfortunate that Chief chose to do a brick wall image as the default exterior wall. I wish this was more generic so that we could use the brick wall image to actually be a brick wall. And yes, I could replace the default PNG file for this, but that's asking a lot for people that want to download my system. So I'm just duplicating it, down the stack. And yeah, now this is a brick wall as well. And this is a custom library object. And so here's my next one, is this pony wall siding 6 furred. So that's what I'm going to use. Part of the reason I immediately built the second level was so that we have wall alignments already kind of baked in. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start from about this section right here and draw that wall assembly. And then I just want to line it up. I know that the left side here is my furred wall. So I get to just line this up so that the outside's lined up here. And what I would need to do to conform all of this is to build a furred wall assembly to continue in front here, if I didn't want to use that same wall assembly all the way through, if in fact the pony wall here is at 0 inches. So I could extend this forward, right? And then make sure that this is lined up the way it needs to be. And what I could do in this next segment here, because my walls are not set to auto join, auto merge linear, is that I could say the height off the floor of the lower wall assembly is just 0 inches, and that would zero it out right there. Okay, and then here starts a portion where I'm going to start stepping this wall. I'll show you that in just a minute. Now I'm going to bring this forward, okay, and then I'm going to make another break. And that break is going to represent a portion where I no longer want that stepping. And so I'm going to utilize the lower wall type, which is this 8-inch concrete stem wall furred. So I'm going to find that 8-inch concrete stem wall furred. Bam, there we go. And then from here, this is already aligned, so I don't need to mess with alignment here. From here, I'm going to return this back. And what I'm going to say is that this is my walkout basement right here. That's it. Okay. I'm going to reverse this right there. There's my furred wall assembly on the inside of that walkout basement. This is just crawl space, or it's just inaccessible space. It's underneath the house. There you go. All right. Now I could continue this forward and change that wall type, or I could come in here and do a number of things. I could just take a straight foundation wall, draw this forward, get it, in alignment with this other wall, this neighboring wall, and say that it's not in fact a foundation wall. Uncheck that, and there we go. And then use that wall type to draw this out. Make sure that we're clicking on align with wall above. That ensures that we are in fact aligned with that wall above. Great. The last kind of thing I might want to do is just create a center line in between these wall assemblies. I should have done that before I replaced this section of wall. Would have been really nice. So I could come up a level, and just as kind of a goofy little thing, I could just draw a line here in between the two walls, grab it, take it down, paste hold position, draw another line, and this becomes my center line, for which when I finish my edits on the right side, if it's supposed to be duplicated on the left side, I could just copy paste reflect about this line. Would be something really easy to do. What does that all mean? Well, I'll show you. I'm going to pull an elevation here, and we're going to see our terrain. Now my terrain needs to be adjusted. I actually want my terrain to be maybe 8 inches off of this jump right here. Okay, so let me just make a line 8 inches down. There's kind of a reference line. Terrain's right here. I can pop a line up, hit tab or enter, copy this. That's 44 3/4. Select my terrain, open it up, uncheck automatic, and so I need to minus that amount, 44 3/4. Right? There we go. That's where my terrain is supposed to be sitting. So, and that looks perfect. Bam. So the next part is I get to take this wall assembly and click underneath it where that little pony wall setup is, use the brake tool, sticky mode the brake tool, and we're going to need a brake right about here because we need some clearance. Need a brake maybe here, here, etc. Once we're done braking that wall assembly, now we can come in here and start making our steps. This is our step foundation wall. About as simple as that. Isn't that beautiful? Super, super easy to do. Pull this camera view again, and I'm going to hide exterior facing walls. That's this button over here in my toolbar. Excuse me. And then we'll just change the rendering mode so we can see inside of here. And I'm selecting inside of this room. And this particular room is going to be mono slab. So I can say, whatever this room is, I'm going to call it a bedroom, sure, but we're going to designate it as a mono slab foundation. And then I just want to make sure that the floor assembly is set to what I need it to be set to, which is 0 inches in this case. So there we go. I got a zeroed out mono slab assembly. And I want you to note that the footing of those mono slab assembly goes according to whatever settings are kind of baked in the software, but that doesn't mean you can't edit them. I could come in here and select a footing, tab or enter, drag that footing down to whatever I want it to be, right? And we could even snap it to this kind of neighboring spot right here, although it's a little bit challenging at times. So tab or enter as we're dragging this down, and we're just going to say, in this case, 24 inches. It's going to turn off auto build foundation. That's okay. So I'm just going to do that for all of these. Even though it doesn't look like it's dragging it 24, like that it's aligned based on this selection, it is in fact aligned when we use that same setting all the way around. So we just dragged our slab footing down to do what we needed it to do. And then if we uncheck hide exterior facing walls, this is all still set up the way we need to. We hide that again, get into this room. And maybe in this room, I want to show that there is no floor below this, so we could just choose the open below setting if we wanted to, but we still want stem wall foundation. And of course, it doesn't matter really in this case, but I could drag this up if I wanted to create some stem walls that are a little bit larger in case it matters for some kind of cross-section detail. So, but the main thing here is that, look, our foundation looks really good right now. So next thing, something that would be very common is that I'm actually going to extend these walls forward, right? And I'll just copy this exterior wall, bring that forward, and then same thing, I'll extend this wall forward. And then this wall is probably going to become an interior wall. So instead of siding existing, interior for existing, something like that, line it with the floor below, perfect. And so what happens with this extension of the house? Well, auto build foundations is off, but it doesn't even matter if it were on because it's not going to build to that second level. So we do need to do some manual work. So we'd have to go down a level, turn on your reference display, and I think we can just use the slab footing tool to create a footing underneath that, or we're going to use this guy, the straight foundation tool, to do that. So try and see what happens with the slab footing tool. And that truly is just a slab footing. So if this is not going to be a slab, if this is going to be a stem wall foundation, that would be a different setup. But there you go. There's our slab footing if in case we wanted to designate this room as slab, all right? And then alternatively, could just use that stem wall with footing, extend this forward. And on my end, I think this just takes a little bit of, well, actually, let me get rid of this because we do have that reference thing that we can reflect about, right? We have that line that we can reflect about. So long as this is lined up correctly, we get to copy paste, reflect about. There we go. It's lined up on both sides. And this guy might need to be aligned with above. Take a look at what we're doing that, right? And we can edit this. This is now defining, that's now defining a room, right? It could be another open below room, but we can actually drag this up. And what does that do? That does drag our stem wall up, right? And actually, to a certain extent before it runs into some platform intersection issues here. So then you're going to have to edit that, that next floor down. So what does this all look like in terms of plan views, right? Let's turn off the reference display. Well, for one, let's go ahead and copy all these wall assemblies over to the other side using that kind of inference CAD line that I've got set up there. Same thing here. Copy this over to the other side. That set up. What does this look like to me? This looks very clear to me. I'll show you exactly how I kind of clean this up. Is that I'm going to get rid of those lines. That open below, this gets to just be, crawl, something like that if we want. We don't necessarily need to show the ceiling height. If you have my pro plan and you want crawl to not show ceiling height, hopefully you know how to do that. But in project label options, you would come into room label options, and room without plate height, you would just add it here. So I would just say, comma, crawl, quote unquote. I think. There we go. Now it's just showing crawl space, no ceiling height there. So that's a conditional macro setup that's in the pro plan. So there we go. There's our crawl space. This next section, I mean, we're pretty much doing the same thing. We named it the same thing if we wanted to. So, and it's just that it's showing footings on this one versus not showing footings over here. Totally up to you how you want to display that. I almost like the display of this because it's very clearly, I could label this as, look, this is our mono slab foundation. I could label the footings. I'm not sure, I've never tried the Anno tool in this condition, but 0 crawl space head clearance, that's because it's a slab. Maybe I'll write a condition in that if it's 0-inch crawl space head clearance, it's automatically a mono slab. Wouldn't that be clever? We'll have to put that in the next version of the pro plan. And then let's just try this, see if we can't get this, pick up footings. It does pick up 16-inch concrete stem wall footings per detail. There we go, except for it's being called stem wall footings, you'd have to change that in the label options. Very cool, that works. So this would be my lowest floors foundation, right? That crawl spaces stem wall foundations. I'd make some note of looking at, the steps. I'd make some note of looking at the details. Maybe I'd have some kind of call out in here demonstrating exactly what the setup is here. Make sure that these are linked to the correct detail. I do have some details in the pro plan that are linked through your layout. So if we just did bring into the layout and we got to, I think, page 11, it's page 12. Here we go. So very easily you could swap out these stackable details so that you're getting into a typical monoslab walkout, and then this next one is going to be that typical monoslab walkout floor. And our next one's going to be typical wall, something like that. Right. So very quickly, we're building this whole detail, and just make sure that you're linking it back to this page so that those links show up appropriately. Here we go. We've almost built out the section that we need for the 2 callouts I just put into that plan, right? So super fast, super easy to do this. Go look at that elevation again. I mean, that's just looking really clean. We do have the option in this particular view to see, is that option? I think it's in the terrain itself. Specification follow terrain. Boy, it's been a while since I've looked at this. Edit active view. Here we go. By default, I have this showing so that below grade is a dashed line. Okay? Below grade is a dashed line. Now that's showing these as a dashed line. If we turn off color and turn off shadows, there we go. Very clearly showing dashed line for this whole assembly. We got a little bit of cleanup here. And you could fight this. This is platform intersection issues, right? This is something happening from that. If we do not get to hide stuff facing the camera, so we'd have to drive this cross section into here to kind of work around that. But do remember that there is a cleanup tool in the layout in case you really can't fight this out of the way. And we could actually just delete those lines in the layout as a post, right? So I think this is looking pretty good. I'm going to close this view. Need to save it. Take a look at what we've got on the whole. So really, I just need to draw in some retaining walls here. I've got my step foundation. You know, I need my interior set up here to drop down for some interior stairs with this. But there's our terrain. There's all our stepping. There's our retaining walls, in case you have retaining walls. We could have stepped this whole section independently without needing to division this by room, right? We could have gotten rid of this intermediate room if the retention is way back here only and the rest of this is just floating grade. Easy enough to do that. Select this wall and get rid of it, and look at that. We've got a whole new thing going on here, kind of the same thing. Select this wall, get rid of it, and now if we just set up this room, as we're selecting in here, I tabbed through, said that this was open below. All right, it's going to get rid of that whole assembly, and now we've got some stuff going on here that a little bit of cleanup to do. We probably extend this wall through, which would be easy enough to just even do this in 3D. So I just extended that wall through, get under the terrain, got rid of that. You could break this, bring this down, etc. That's going to bring that footing down. So many different ways we can set this up. So now this wall is our major retention, right? And that's a third wall. Let's switch back to a regular view here, and we can see inside here. These walls are lining up on the interior, even though this, look at that, that's our stepped wall assembly, right? So drywall's all lining up. Let me know if you have any questions. I guess is what this comes back to. Try this out, see what you think. And we still have auto build roofs enabled. We still got a lot of the benefits of all the auto build tools. Let's build all the framing real quick and just take a look at what a 3D framing overview might look like here. What kind of goofiness runs into this? You can see here, you know, something you might want to do is you might want to put in your wall assembly itself, you might want to break out the furring layers to particular layers that are turned on in the framing view so that you could show this step foundation as part of that. So we could get back to this other view, and in this wall assembly, let's just open this up real quick, and I'm going to define the lower wall assembly, okay? And in particular, I want to define just this concrete, and I'm going to have this move to a display layer, and that display layer, what's it even going to be? I don't know. I don't even know what to call it. Walls foundation. Put that on the walls foundation display layer instead, right? So do we have walls foundation turned on by default? We do. So look at that. Super fast and easy. Let me just do a line over. Bam. Now we're showing that step foundation all the way through. A lot of times your this interior wall here, this big retention wall here, switch back to this view, and we're looking this guy right here. A lot of times we want this wall in particular to be in the structure panel. We're going to hang the floor platform above on that wall, so that could be something you might need to touch on. So now we're hanging these floor assembly, and maybe you would turn the joists going the other way so that they're running off of a ledger board or something like that. So all in all, that looks pretty dang good. Looks pretty accurate. Look at this. There's our furring wall. We've got a 1/2 inch gap between the furring wall and our framing assembly. Bam. It would show insulation in between. That we could pull a back clipped cross section through. So back clipped cross section through this assembly right here. And then auto detail. Right? That's showing that assembly. That should be a pretty good video, I think.